are listening to the SITREP podcast, your source for everything related to historical wargaming. Whether you are looking for the latest wargaming news, reviews, painting tutorials, or playthroughs, you will hear about it right here. So grab your favorite beverage or brush and let's hit it.
Hey everybody, this is Bill with the SITREP podcast, and it is that time again. It's time to get our gaming excellence on and talk about all things historical wargaming with that little emphasis on the modern side. Joining me today is our historical guru, the game creator, the man himself, Sir Jim Oriskany. How are you, sir?
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
All right. And here in the Midwest, with a new promotion, is Martin, our new news editor. Marty, how are you, sir?
Good morning, and you will all live to regret that. Now you have to listen to what I think is news.
So I have to now create a new intro for you for the news. And
I was going to say, is Marty going to get the new...
I better get an intro.
So I'm thinking it's going to be something along, what's Anchorman? So.
Oh, yeah, there you go. 60% of the time, every time.
All right, so we're Chris is MIA at this point. He may hop in later. Who knows? He may be buried in some computer stuff. You know, whatever those computer guys do. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a patching weekend for him or not.
Yeah.
So whatever he's doing.
Whatever. Anyways, let's get on with the show. So, as traditional, we'd like to catch up on what people are doing, just to do a brief synopsis of any gaming or hobbying or other, gaming-related interests. And, Sir Jim, I'm going to let you start the show today. Hit it.
All right. Actually, not a whole heck of a lot. Last week, we rolled out some HK Ops for the first time in quite a while. We dusted off that bad boy. And some video production, so hopefully we'll see some modeling and some actual tabletop hobbycraft.
Nice.
Of the A10 Warthog that we were talking about earlier. That's now kind of put together into a video that will probably be going out in the next week or so. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Excellent. As all of you already know, the A10 is the official mascot of the SITREP podcast. All right. Excellent. Looking forward to that. And then tomorrow you got some gaming going on, I understand.
Yeah. So we are going to kick off. I don't know if it's going to be a series or if it's just going to be a couple, scattered war games. But we're sort of coming up with our own almost Tom Clancy type. I know I'm kind of comparing myself to Tom Clancy. I don't mean to do that. But we're coming up with our own sort of techno thriller potential war of the future.
Mm-hmm.
For the moment, we're calling it Red Dragon 2028, and we're sort of taking a look from multiple angles of what a People's Republic of China invasion of Taiwan might look like. So we have the base sort of worked out as far as the approximate year, how, at least in this, obviously fictional setting, the Chinese are actually launching this invasion. And what some of the response might be, what countries might get involved, and we're looking at a range of systems, at least 4 different systems, to look at different aspects and different command levels of this kind of conflict. So we're going to go ahead and kick that off tomorrow with the first installment. It might be the only one. I mean, it depends on what kind of interest it finds in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But we more or less are making up our own war, in the not too distant future. Obviously, this is the kind of thing we hope never happens, but just in case it does, it's, back in the 80s, people were constantly, nobody wanted it to happen, but people were constantly imagining and reimagining and then dumping all the toys back out of the box and reimagining again what it might look like when the Soviets invaded West Germany.
Right.
Nowadays, we look back at Team Yankee and it's fun. It's, let's put on some 80s tracks and talk about 810s and M1 Abrams, and it's all kind of fun. Spoiler alert for any of us who might be old enough, this shit wasn't funny in the 1980s.
No, it sure wasn't.
That stuff was going to happen like any day.
Yeah.
And it was your life's work to sort of prepare for that in one way or another. So, it wasn't, but even back then, techno thriller novels, that was the birth of the techno thriller novel. Tom Clancy, Harold Coyle, Ralph Peters. There's a bunch of others. I'm not, the king of them all, actually back in the 70s, Sir John Hackett, the commander of NATO. Came out with a book about this, and it was like, hey, this is how it's going to happen. Spoiler alert: if you're playing Team Yankee, you're really playing Sir John Hackett's Third World War, August 1985. That's the real cinematic universe, air quotes, that Team Yankee takes place in.
Yeah.
So we're sort of doing the same thing with a potential conflict in the Pacific. We don't want to do Europe again because Europe's done to death. I mean, hello. So we're looking at the Pacific. Specifically, again, Red China going into Taiwan.
Interesting.
And we'll see how that kicks off tomorrow.
So I have a question. Will there be these man-made islands in the game? You know how China's creating these islands to expand their territory?
We've already sort of looked at that with our Spratly Islands game. You're talking about the Spratly Islands.
Uh-huh.
We looked at that in a game of Naval Command, where we put U.S. Navy destroyers up against several Chinese frigates. That was a fun game. Are they going to figure in again? Yeah, almost certainly. Because again, that's much further south than Taiwan is the spot that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's in the South China Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Not right across the Formosa Straits, where this conflict is. However, we'll go into the details tomorrow as far as how this invasion scenario is starting to play out.
Right.
I've got a couple sources, by the way. These are mostly Modern War Magazine. I got a couple articles. Again, we'll go into the details tomorrow. I didn't just sit down and make this up off the top of my head. We do have some little bits of published. I don't want to say prediction, but.
Sure.
Imagining of what this kind of thing would look like.
Yep.
And, again, that would sort of be a peripheral theater. However, it would still play in because it wouldn't just be Taiwan. We would have the U.S. 7th Fleet there. Japan would almost certainly get involved. South Korea, probably not so much because North Korea is right there. And needless to say, the 38th parallel might be a bit tense in this kind of a situation. But as other allies, Australia, New Zealand definitely start to get mobilized and, maybe try to help out in this effort to, first contain and then defeat this invasion. The approaches to Taiwan and the Formosa Straits from other angles are definitely going to come into play. And that's where you again, depending on what the community feels and depending on how many people we get involved, if we get a lot of people that are into, naval command, we could definitely come back to the Spratly Islands again. So far, we've got at least 2 games. We've got tomorrow's, and I think we've already got a game lined up for next Sunday, too.
Nice.
So stay tuned for that. Apparently, this little mini setting is starting to get a little bit of traction here. So no promises as to how long it'll go, but we're going to take a look at this, Red Dragon 2028 scenario from a couple different angles for sure.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. And just as a reminder to everybody that listens, the podcast is now released on Saturday at approximately noon Central Daylight Time or Central Standard Time, obviously depending on the time of the year. But this way, we're talking about something that's going to happen versus like we used to when we did the recording on Sundays and released after Jim's game. This way, we can build you up and get an audience growing. And so you guys will know about the games ahead of time, and you can pop in. And it's always great if you can't watch it to listen to it in the background while you're doing hobbying or reading or whatever the case may be. It's always a good listen if you're not viewing it. So that's
one thing that we're definitely trying, and this is sort of related to our podcast being rescheduled to Saturdays instead of Sundays, is we are starting the game like an hour or maybe even 2 hours before the stream goes live. So a lot of times people log on to our stream and we play big war games.
Yeah.
We don't play little skirmish games. These are actually big, tanks and ranks kind of big battle games. The trade-off there is that it takes a while.
Yeah.
And there's setup, and then there's discussion, and then there's the first move. And on these big battlefields, it might be turn 3 before anyone's in range of each other. Long story short, take your first shot. The first hour or an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours of these streams have been a little dry.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to actually start the game. So hopefully when we go live, that's going to be 2 o'clock Eastern time. These are almost, these are pretty much our usual time. 2 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. Yeah. We're already going to have rounds down range. So when you log in, hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. When we log in when you log into our stream on Sunday, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Boom, we'll already be in the thick of it.
Nice.
To, hopefully make the streams, number one, a little shorter, and number two, a little bit more engaging right off the top.
Excellent. So it's now Jim's Oriskany action time. So diving right into the action
stuff right away.
Woo. Nice. All right, excellent, Jim. That's actually, I think, a very smart move because, anybody who's played those big games knows that things start out very slow. I mean, look at the game you and I played the other week. I mean, nothing really happened for the first 3-4 turns, and then it all of a sudden just, boom, we hit it. So
nothing happens as in nothing's blown up yet.
Right.
But at the same time, again,
it's just a chess game in those first few turns.
Well, we'll get into it with today's topic, but these games where you see we don't start 12 inches in from the table, we start 12 inches from the center of the table to kind of you guys are throwing away 80% of the game when you do that. It drives me up the wall. All that said, while it might be very engaging and vital, the game is won or lost before the first shot is fired. I mean, all that said, if you're watching it or listening to it on the stream, it can be a little slow.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely a left hand, right hand kind of a thing there. So, we might pause when the stream starts and say, hey, we're now like the beginning of turn 3. Mm-hmm. We've done A, we've done B. Here's what he's thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. Talk with the community for a second. But then, within 15 minutes, we should be, back into the thick of it.
Sweet.
Already sort of, waist deep into the carnage with any luck.
That sounds great. I think that will definitely keep people in and bring other people in. Yeah, because a lot of people, they like the action, and so I think that's awesome. That's a good move, Jim. Excellent. All right, Marty, you're up, sir.
Yes, I concur, Jim. Good move.
Thank you. We'll see if it works.
So, yeah. So, let's see. So for hobby stuff, my little Afghan platoon of dudes. I've based them, and I've finished touching up the bases and steel cut them, and they are ready to go to work. So I'm pretty excited about that. I figured out how to thin Turbo Dork paint and added a third walker to my Mercenaries for Dust. So now I have one that is Bubblegum Crisis, one that is People Eater Purple, and one that is a Spicy Meatball.
Interesting.
So it's well, I figured, for the ladies of demolition, that seemed like it could be a thing. I mean, everything else is, brown and green, so got to bring a little color to the table there somewhere.
Sure.
As well as speaking of table, so I had to catalog everything that I received from you for Dust, so that was a lot of stuff. So I got them all sorted out and figured out who goes to what unit. All those little loose infantry dudes. Yeah. Not gonna lie, that was a pain. that was like 3 hours of my life I'm not getting back. But I got them all sorted out and whatnot. So that's about all I've done for hobby stuff, really. Gotcha. Though I'm done a ton of stuff, but I'm happy with what I did get done.
Yeah.
The Turbodor paint was kicking my ass because I tried this a couple weeks ago, and I literally had to strip it. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So the fact that it turned out, and I figured out how to get it done, and the Turbodor has a nice little community on their Facebook page as well. So that helped.
So for you guys that don't know, Turbo Dork is a line of paints that's what they call color changing paints. It goes down as one, but
color shifting.
Yeah, color shifting, and then it, and then it changes color depending on light and the way you look at it and stuff like that. So again, they have use,
put under it.
But in historical wargaming, it's extremely limited. But once you go outside the historical part of it, then
you're not painting a battleship with any of these.
But, I mean, you could, but it's going to be a nightmare. But if you're looking historical, As of right now, they don't seem to have too much of a place.
I think they have a color called Nightmare.
So yeah, cool. Anything else, Marty?
But that's it. No, then trying to prod Chris with a stick to get him to do some stuff. So we'll get there.
Yeah, that's a hobby in and of itself. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So for me, obviously, I've done a couple videos since our last show. I did one on range and scale, model scale, with the assistance of my lovely wife, Dawn. And then I did a review unboxing and first impression. It wasn't really a review. It was a first impression unboxing of the game Fire in the Sky, which takes the entire war in the Pacific from World War II, from day one all the way through the Japanese surrender. So if you guys haven't seen that video yet, it's up there on our YouTube channel and stuff. I apologize for the sound. I didn't realize at the time because I wasn't controlling the control board. Dawn was, and I guess we missed it. We had two mics live at the same time, so they were clipping out each other. That's why the sound was off. So I'll have to make sure that I fix that for the next time. But outside of that, I'm still working a little bit on getting my painting video done for Epic Battles, the Civil War, American Civil War, from Warlord. And I've been doing a lot of reading recently, rule books. I love rule books. It's kind of like my hobby within a hobby. I seem to collect rule books. Marty's seen our game room, and I have shelves dedicated just to rule books. So
you have plenty of them, that's for sure.
So I came up with, how last year we had what was our big project last year, guys? What took almost a whole year for us?
13 days, 13 hours.
Right. So I have sitting right in front of me, I'm actually looking at it as I speak. I have essentially the entire Force on Force collection of rule books. What if, for our next big project, because this will keep us within our realm of historical combat / modern, if we did a complete playthrough of Force on Force? So we take the main rule book, we take one scenario out of Road to Baghdad, one out of Enduring Freedom, one out of Days of Rangers, one out of Bush Wars, one out of Fallujah, and I can't remember what the other book I have up here is because the spine is turned.
There's one on hypothetical World War II. They went back into, hypothetical World War III. Yeah. There's one where they actually go back to World War II. They call it Special Ops, like 1940. We played like some of the very first British commando raids into Norway and things like that.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of them. So, I think there's one on Vietnam.
Yeah, I have the Vietnam one. I got to find it. I think it's Ambush Valley. I have the Special Ops one is called Classified 1940 to 2010. So thanks to my buddy Alex from Full Battle Rattle Miniatures. He sent me those books. Yeah. What do you think, guys? Should we do a Force on Force series? Do you think that would be interesting to people? And I would be interested because I have yet to play Force on Force, and Jim has spoken about it several times.
I've spoken and published about it. It's a great. It's probably I haven't tried them all, so again, I always kind of put that footnote in there because I don't want to sound like I'm talking down about other systems. But Force on Force is probably one of my. In fact, it is of the games I've played so far. It's my favorite modern system. For two main reasons, I'll just hit those 2 bullet points extremely quickly. Number one, it doesn't care about the bullet. It doesn't care about, this is the 680, SPC cartridge in your M4 carbine, which has been rechambered, and it's got the rails on the side, and it's assault rifle, machine gun, submachine gun, pistol, that kind of thing. And what it tends to emphasize instead of like the super down to the, grain weight in the brass casing, kind of super technical detail is the quality of the man.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you're ready to get hunted down in the streets of Chicago and you have to fight for your life, you could give me a $3,000 M4 assault carbine with all the trimmings, give it to my, 50-year-old fat ass, or you could give an old busted Pakistani created in a garage AK-47 to a Delta Force operator, and which one would you rather go up against?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. The gun doesn't matter. It's the guy. It's the dope behind the weapon, as they used to say on the range.
If it's Chicago, there's a kid on the west or south side that's already doing this stuff. So
yeah.
Good thing.
So it's so it really goes into troop quality rather than like technical detail. And number two, it does asymmetrical warfare right. I've said it 100 times. If I had a nickel for every time, I've had to stop and like explain what asymmetrical warfare really is, especially in terms of gaming.
Yeah.
What an asymmetrical war game really is. Force on Force is just I won't say the only, but it's one of the few games that actually understands that. And as you read through the base rule book, you'll see here's how, we're going to do Force on Force. Okay, guys, here's how you build an army. Here's how you do movement. Here's how you do initiative. Here's how you do fire, wounds, casualty evacuation, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to like maybe 75% through the book and it starts over. It says, okay, take all those rules and kind of set them off to one side. Here's how insurgents work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how they move. Here's how they do morale. Here's how they do casualties. And what that winds up with, you can do like NVA versus Marines. You can do regular Army versus regular Army if you want. And you just use that first section of the book. But if you're doing most modern conflicts, which is a real, standard military versus an insurgency of some kind, you've got two different armies, and in Force on Force, you're literally playing two different games. You've got rulebook on that side of the table, and you've got a rulebook on this side of the table. And it's all sort of within the same framework of Force on Force, obviously. But it's not just the two sides have different forces, and they have different abilities, and one side's got a lot, and one side's got a few. And no, you're literally using a different system.
Yeah.
In some aspects, in most aspects. And
but that's very reflective of how modern warfare and asymmetric warfare is. That's how insurgencies go.
The two sides are literally playing by two different rule books.
Yeah.
And in Force on Force, that is damn near a literal truth. And that's why I love it.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm excited. Marty, what do you think?
I was going to say, you sold me. I mean, where do we start?
We have the miniatures.
We got it.
And if we don't have the miniatures.
Historically, do we start farthest in the past and work our way forward?
Well, you know what? Do we need
to build a table?
Well, so as far as the table stuff, I think we need to make it where we can just, buildings and trees and what terrain, little pieces that can easily be set up. And, I don't want to do a big table like we did for Benghazi because we'd have 20 tables,
Force on Force is usually a 2 or 3 foot table.
Yeah. So
that's assuming you're playing at 20 mil, but it's scale agnostic. I've played it at 15.
Mm-hmm.
I played it at 20. I know if people are going to play it at 20. It's fine. It all works out. It's
so
one of those ranges unlimited kind of games. It's the size of the table is not going to be a big issue.
So if we play it over at the studio, we've already got 2x2 squares there that instead of the grass side being up, let's flip them over and put the dirt side up. And, so that's some basic stuff. I've got, I don't know, you've seen the stuff that the little Afghan cork buildings and whatnot that I've got for some of my stuff.
And we still have the Alamo stuff we can turn into an Afghani village or Iraqi village or whatever. So
if we wanted to weather that up to look more, Adobe, if you will, more mud brick.
Yep.
Although that will still be a project because that thing's like I don't know,
a lot,
10% assembled.
So
a couple good tricks to update a table like that. Super fast. Make some signage. You don't even have to permanently attach it to your buildings. Just put like putty sticker, kneaded eraser or blue tack.
Blue tack or something.
Yeah. Get some. I do this all the time. Get some, especially if the language, this would definitely apply. If the language uses a different alphabet, like if you're in Vietnam or Afghanistan or the Ukraine, where the lettering is very clearly not English.
Yeah.
And you can turn a World War II, all those French cafes suddenly become, internet cafes in a bombed out Ukrainian town somewhere, like snap like that. And a crazy little thing, it's a video I keep meaning to make. One of these days I'm going to sit down and do it on live stream, is some chain link fence.
Nice.
Name one thing that wasn't around in World War II that is freaking everywhere now. And you put just a couple. You don't have to cover the board with it. Just drop a couple of those pieces of it, a couple of little parking lots, and your board is immediately 1970s forward. With just a couple little bits of a chain link fence. Bam.
True that. True that.
Yeah. So you don't even have to you literally take a table. All my stuff is World War II. You take a couple, but again, I do mostly moderns now. Take a couple little sprinkles of this modernizing sort of effect, and that table will warp forward 80 years in history with like an hour of work. It doesn't take long at all.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I do have a stash of Arabic signs. I have like 3 pages of little signs that are specific to Iraq. I mean, it's like literally the road sign, pause, rub this exit, things like that. And then I've got some Ukrainian signs. Weird, I know, right?
I know. I have like highway signs to Slavyansk. I have highway signs to Donetsk. I've gotten those signs with those mile markers, and same with Kuwait International Airport. It's not hard to find. You go on Google Images, you do like 2 seconds of work in Photoshop, print and play, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then I got stuff like advertising, like billboards and placards for like Roshan telephone service. It's ubiquitous there. So
nice.
So you're both.
I had for Ukraine, I had the Metro. I think they call it the Metro supermarket. It's like their version of either Publix or Walmart or something like that. And for our Way City sign, I did Way City in Force on Force. For Way City, we had I can't remember the name of it. That toothpaste ad. I don't know if you guys remember. If you watch Full Metal Jacket, there's always this billboard in the background of this guy with this it's kind of tasteless nowadays. With like this guy, he's like it's a toothpaste ad, so he has like this huge smile on his face. And he's like, grinning down on the city in this big cartoonish looking, borderline racist nowadays. But it's a toothpaste ad. And when I was doing this, I was publishing on Beasts of War at the time. I'm doing all these Google translations just to make sure that none of these signs in Vietnamese, without me knowing about it, doesn't say, Madam Midnight's Boom Boom Palace, right around the corner or something like that. So I just check, make sure everything's kosher. But if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, you know what billboard I'm talking about. So I literally created that billboard, slapped it around the table. It's always in shot. A couple little touches like that, and your table can become very specific without starting over with the plaster and literally building the table from literally the ground up. No pun intended.
Sure. Nice. All right. So I think we'll have to sit down and do some planning sessions and
right.
I think because I've been itching for a big campaign, after what we went through last year with Benghazi. It's like, this year it's kind of like, what have we done, right? We've done a lot of little projects, but I want us to be known as the big project people, right? So
we haven't done anything serious.
Yeah,
we have done something serious this year, the Gulf War series.
Yeah, no,
that was like. Good grief! Now that ended at the beginning of March, so that was 5 months ago now.
Yeah.
Good damn.
Yeah. So no, I don't want to take anything away from that. I was like, we spent. Everybody did a part, right? Jim, you had skirmish set rep. You set up. We did the transit game and play tested that, and then we did
skirmish sit rep, which is going to seem a lot less original and amazing once we start to get deep into the weeds on Force.
But it's ours, damn it! It's ours.
That's where it came from.
A lot of it's going to seem very familiar. It's like, oh, wait a minute now. Oh, okay.
I thought Jim was a genius. You lifted this right out of here.
Yeah, I am a genius. I steal from the best.
Exactly.
So, you know what? What I've always been told is you take the best parts of other things and bring it to your own project to create something better. It's really what it comes down to. Nothing is 100% original. You always have inspiration from somewhere else, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, Force on Force's reaction system comes from other games. The size of dice goes back to TSR Battle System 1989. Like, oh, this is a good character, he rolls a D8. This is a crappy character, he rolls a D6.
Yeah.
This is an elite operator, he rolls a D12. That goes back to the 80s, if not further back. Like, I'm not talking about role-playing games, I'm talking about war games. So, nothing really new under the sun. But, steal from the best is, there was a quote, I can't remember, this is not mine. I can't remember who actually said this. It might have been Mark Twain. He says, when you steal from one, it's called plagiarism, but when you steal from many, it's called research. Go for it.
Sounds like a Mark Twain quote.
Yep.
All right, cool. So that's what I've been working on. So
I don't know if I'll be able to. I was going to say, I don't know if I'll be able to attribute that correctly, but I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
All right. So, that's kind of where I'm thinking we head. Also, what I'm thinking is I'd like to have a public Google Drive area. So, like Jim, for Valor and Victory, the modern expansion, I'd like to have it available in the Google Drive. Eventually I'd like us to have our own web page where we have a resource page where it's stuff that you would like to have available either through, like, if we have subscribers that they can have access to get the rule books or any projects that we work on that you feel that, we want to make as like, special rewards or whatever to supporters and, people. So something we'll have to work on. But, I really think, we've been up and running for this is our anniversary this month. I want to say, has it been 3 years, 4 years now? I can't remember now.
No, it's been, you guys have been up since July. I think you guys went up July 4th of, I say you guys because I wasn't with the team yet. July 4th of 2019.
2019? Okay.
Yeah.
So, 2 years? No, it's been longer than 2 years.
You're right. I joined in January of 2019. Sorry.
I think it was the year before
January
that, so
4th
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so 3 years. 3 years. So,
there you go.
July 4th, dun, 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 America. So, I think it's time that we really start honing our edge, really becoming other than, hey, let's just throw out a show here and the podcast here, which, Jim has added quite a bit of quality and quantity of good programming to the, we wouldn't be where we're at right now if it wasn't for Jim. I'm going to be upfront. Jim has really,
for sure,
been the Herculean effort for the podcast. So, like that statue of Atlas holding the planet Earth, that's Jim.
Oh, wow.
So
you guys are too nice, but thank you, though.
You're welcome.
Really, when I think of Jim, I think more of Adonis. But okay.
Jeez. All right, guys, this is getting kind of weird. Cue the soft jazz and the Barry White. It's time for SITREP After Dark.
Oh, Lord. Speaking of SITREP After Dark, we need to have another Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So
I even saved my little dudes and haven't painted them yet. So
should we try and shoot for next Saturday night? Marty, do you have anything going on next Saturday? And I know I'm free.
So yes and no.
Okay.
I do have. So there, oddly enough, just 1947. I was going to say tournament. In America, we don't do tournaments. Giant big boy play date. In Yorkville, so next town over from you already.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Was that the barbecue?
Late. Yeah, I don't know how late that's going to go.
Gotcha.
But if I'm already 10 minutes from your house,
right? Well, I mean, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to plan for next Saturday night. We are going to have a Saturday Night Live, and because Dawn is interested in joining us. As long as we don't do a close-up cam of anything she's working on, because she's very sensitive about her painting skills, which I think is silly, but whatever.
So she's seen the crap that I paint.
So what I'm saying is,
I'll tell you what, I'll put out that 810 video, and before the Saturday Night Live, trust me, she'll feel fine.
You know what,
she'll
Jim?
take one look at that 810 and say, "Oh, well, my painting's not so bad."
Would you be interested in joining us via the conference thing? Would you like to be part of the show?
I
or
can
you get
try. I'll definitely be free on Saturday night.
okay, because you know how we scammed in, did the thing with the Valor and Victory, you know, with the restream where I can just have you invite in, and then we can, you know, you can set up your camera for on your hobby table, however you want to do it, and then we can just shoot the shit. Excuse my language, and have some adult beverages and just wax lyrical, as Warren would say, and you know, go to town.
Sir, point of order. Has that table been fixed yet?
It will be lowered by the time you come back. So even though everybody's asking for a repeat of you falling off the stool.
I don't know.
I don't mind falling off the stool. I just want it to be from a foot lower. I'm just saying.
So, all right, guys, you've heard it here on the SITREP podcast on August 7th. Today's 7th, right? Yep.
Yep.
Next Saturday, which is the 14th. What time's good for everybody? Should we shoot for 7:30-ish? 8 o'clock? Jim, what's good for you? I know it's a Saturday night, and it is a Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm pretty much open.
Right.
Saturday night. So yeah, just you know, let me know.
All right, let's shoot for 7:30. We'll kick off the show at 7:30. Next Saturday night, it's a Saturday Night Live. We're going to have to come up with a better name because I know sooner or later we're going to get hit with a cease and desist from NBC. So,
well, SITREP After Dark.
Yeah. I'm going to come up with some funky theme music now for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, SITREP After Dark next Saturday at 7:30.
I mean,
yeah.
Give Jim full credit on the name.
Yeah. We are so going to give.
We should use it.
Somehow, Jim's is going to end up in the theme song, so don't you worry.
All right.
Oh, for God's sake! St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the SITREP After Dark. I gotta learn to be quiet.
Somewhere in the theme song, we need to work in long story short, just so we can get this thing kicked off right.
Right. So yeah, you know, that's going to bring back. You know, we got to get this website up so I can get some merch out there. Guys, in the meantime, if you're looking to get one of our few of our first run T-shirts, $9, $9.99 plus shipping. Just send us an email to sitrep.podcast@gmail.com with your size, color choice. It's either the forest green or black, and your address, obviously, so we can figure out shipping, and we will get it to you. We only have a few left, so if you're interested, please let us know, and then you'll see new designs coming, because I definitely want to get the new, long story short, shot glass available. So, you know, for like these SITREP After Dark, you guys can, have it ready when Jim starts waxing lyrical. So
that's sitrep.podcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Correct.
Because I don't have one of those new
Well,
Jim,
you're going to get a care package coming your way, sir. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No worries.
And before you send that, because I don't know if I left one over at your place or not, Bill, I have one of the SITREP podcast ball caps for Jim over here.
Yeah, you didn't leave it out with us. So, yeah, we'll make sure you get one of the original edition, with the black on it.
Yay.
Yeah, I got it in the loft here still. So to circle back right quick, this Force on Force thing, really cool, super excited, talking about projects and whatnot. However, I should remind you, we have a Savage Frontier table that we're going to build here in the not too distant future as well.
Which kind of table? You kind of got fuzzy there.
Savage Frontier?
Yes. Yeah, we still got to do Savage Frontiers. So
Savage Frontier is basically a snowy mountain forest, right? You can repurpose that and double use that for Afghanistan.
That or World War II,
Oh yeah, Norway.
Yeah,
Norway. Those first commando raids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So excellent. All right. Yeah. So guys, are you ready for this? I am now going to say a code word. SITREP Backpack Cozy Dice. Listen to this again. SITREP Backpack Cozy Dice. So for everybody out there, if you've heard that, the first person to post it in the comments below will win one of our last two remaining SITREP podcast Cozy Dice backpacks. Okay? So put it in the comment. The first one to comment will win a backpack. All right. moving on. I'm trying to clear out some of the stuff we still have sitting around. Let's talk about our topic, guys. Miniatures or board games?
Well, are we going to do news first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we have a new news guy.
I mean,
news guy, what's in the news?
It's not a ton of stuff. However, I did think, I did catch a couple of things, and I have one that I am super excited about, and that we definitely need to talk about.
All right, go for it.
We all remember our good friend Walt from Impudent Mortal.
Yeah.
He passed away 2
years ago.
Year and a half ago?
2.5 years ago, yeah.
So Impudent Mortal is back online. It has the company has been sold and is back up and running. Yeah. They are already attending conventions. Their Facebook page is active again.
Yeah.
The web page, they were still working on getting up to speed. And Bill, take a wild guess who now has Impudent Mortal in their care.
I think it's
somebody we know and love.
I think he has something to do with Warlord, does he not?
He does. Yeah, John Russell.
Russell. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know who John Russell is, he is the North American rep for Warlord Games. We interviewed him at Little Wars. Yep. So if you go back to the video interview with with John from Little Wars, I think it was our Sunday podcast, was it not? He came in and did part of our podcast on Sunday, our video podcast.
The big show.
Yeah. So, it was good. Don said, "Hey, Impudent Mortal's live again." I'm like, "What do you mean he's live again? Did they find a cure for death?" But yeah, so because which is funny because Walt's widow never, as far as I know, never said anything about this transaction, and it was good to see that it's somebody we know who's going to be respectful, and the designs and everything. He's still going to have the original designs, and I'm assuming there'll be some new stuff that'll be created. But I still have a ton of Impudent Mortal stuff. Believe it or not, I still have a ton of Impudent Mortal stuff still in packaging to be built. So it's good to see that the company just didn't die away, with Walt. So that's good news.
I'm super excited, and I think that John will do a good job with Walt's legacy. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that.
The nice thing about Impudent Mortal terrain, it's not overly fancy or complicated. It's just good quality MDF terrain at really reasonable prices. So, if you guys are looking for some good MDF terrain at a very good price, definitely check out Impudent Mortal. Because, I have the American Civil War collection. I've built I did a stone cabin, on video for a Wednesday night show once. And I still have a ton more to do. So, there's some really good stuff there. And, so yeah, make sure you check out John's, takeover of Impudent Mortal and carrying on the legacy of Walt. So that's nice.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not sure if they got the webpage up and running yet. Cause this just happened like a week ago that it kind of showed up. But John has the Facebook page, and he himself is able to, has the admin rights and is able to run that. So I'm sure that they're probably trying to sort out the same deal for the webpage. And then, obviously that webpage has been sitting inactive for a couple of years. So they, they're going to have to dust it off, change a few things in the background, blah, blah, blah.
So we're going to have to reach out to John after he's got up and running a little bit and see if we can, work out some kind of partnership or sponsorship or something to really help bring it back.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
So super exciting stuff. War Games Atlantic. It seems like these guys are quite prolific. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't just mean that they have a large range, but I mean they continue to put out new stuff. So they have French Infantry, 1916 to 1940, up for pre-order.
Wait a minute, French Infantry? Are they dropping their rifles and running away?
Yeah, well, no, they're not Italian. Oh, explain it.
No. Especially in World War One, they were pretty hard on defense.
Were they?
And the French get a bit of a bad rap in World War Two.
Yeah.
They did better than a lot of people tend to think. If you look at 93,000 dead in those 6 weeks of not only case. Oh God, I'm going to get it wrong now. Case yellow, but also case red. You don't drop 93,000 dead by not fighting.
Right.
They did better than a lot of people think. They were just hopelessly, number one, outpositioned, and then number two, the French army in 1940 had some hella issues.
Yeah.
But
so in World War
they got
One,
a bit of a bad rap.
So, all kidding aside, because, there's a lot of, I'm gonna go there. There's a lot of people over across the channel that do make fun of the French all the time about, their capabilities. But as an American looking across the pond, in World War I, Jim, were they swept aside kind of like they were in the first years of World War II, or were they more robust?
Not.
Okay.
They obviously lost as many battles as they won, but the same could be said for everybody.
Yeah.
The British definitely included. And as far as being swept aside goes,
because what comes to mind is the Maginot Line, right? What happened?
Yeah, Case Yellow definitely, outmaneuvers the French and sort of, gets them on the back foot. But you know what? As far as, people across the channel making fun of the French, they don't have too much room to talk.
Yeah.
They had their little booties spanked well off the friggin' continent. They like to celebrate Dunkirk. Dunkirk was a masterclass in running away. So, they also have a lot to sort of answer for as far as, fleeing the Germans. But then again, everybody was fleeing the Germans.
Right.
You say running away like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, that's my point.
You might not win the war, but you get to keep your dudes alive.
You get to keep your dudes alive. You get to stay in the fight, and retreating in the face of an aggressive, numerically superior enemy is one of the most difficult maneuvers to execute. How to successfully disengage from a side that doesn't want to disengage, and i.e., he's winning by default. He's in control of the battle space, and how do you break off and still keep your forces somewhat intact?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
whether
definitely
it's Dunkirk or it's the Chosen Reservoir.
Oh God, yeah, longest retreat in American history.
Right.
So when it comes to retreats, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But no, the French, did a little bit better in World War I. That's for sure.
Well, that's good that you could clear up that, because I only know a little bit about World War I, unfortunately. But you always hear that the French were always outgunned, I don't want to say outclassed, because whatever the case may be. I think, the German war machine by the time World War II came around was better in the early years than pretty much anybody in Europe. I don't think anybody can argue that point too much, but, that's all you hear is, the French, kept getting overrun and stuff. So it's nice to hear that that's not actually the case. So
I think a lot of that kind of blurs. A lot of people's view of history is not terribly precise. And they hear a couple stories, they see a couple YouTube videos, they watch a couple things on the History Channel, and they sort of get this view of, ask most Americans, name three things about French military history. And they're going to name, they retreated in World War I, they retreated in World War II, and they retreated out of Russia with Napoleon. I mean, it's all retreats. And that's not, and again, their performance in the opening 6 weeks of their part of World War II, I think, sort of casts a shadow over a lot of stuff, because again, people just don't know enough, or don't read enough, and they think, French in Europe against the Germans, they always run away. And okay, they do have a bad track record. They lost against the Germans in what was really the first act. That was actually not two wars. That was a trilogy. A lot of people tend to forget the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, where the Germans walked into Paris. And then comes World War I, where they damn near walked into Paris again. And then World War II, they walked into Paris a third time. It does build up a trend. We're not letting them off the hook entirely, but at the same time, Yeah, World War I think they put up a much better fight than they did in either Franco-Prussian War or World War II.
Exactly. So
again, the French against the Italians invaded them at the same time. Man, they spanked the Italians. They spanked their little bottoms blue. And then later on, they whipped the Italians. They were outnumbered by the Italians. I'm talking about like the southern. Okay, if you look at a map of Europe, you've got that little bit of the border between northern Italy and southern France, right there by the Alps. There's a second front of that 1940 campaign right down there that nobody ever talks about, and it's 6 divisions of French up against like 250,000, or up to, I can't remember. I think it's about 250,000 Italians. And they get absolutely nowhere. In fact, by the end of that campaign, I think the French actually occupied a little bit of Italian territory. Then again, the Italians also lost the war to the Albanians. I'm not kidding about that. In about the same time period, they barely conquered Abyssinia. They had to use chemical warfare to conquer what is today the Ethiopians. So yeah, the Italians were probably doing even worse than the French were.
Yeah, I remember in high school. You know, Marty, what you used to tell me all the time when we were in high school? I have a good Italian rifle. It's only been dropped once, or something like that.
That's only, but never been fired. Only dropped once.
Yeah.
I won't bog down the podcast, but there's another whole story about that. There's always reasons and context.
Yeah.
And again, it's not always to excuse these things or to kind of pass it off. But and then later on, when the French sort of get a second chance, with the Lend-Lease campaign and de Gaulle and the French in exile and the Free French movement, they start whipping some ass.
Yeah.
They become like the Poles. You want to talk about some crazy people, man. The Poles, they got overrun in less than 3.5 weeks or something like that. Yeah, start looking at Polish units as early as the Battle of Britain, or even before that. Polish units were fighting in exile in Norway. These guys were like, okay, we just got our asses whipped. We've got to come back from this. And these guys are insane. Who took Monte Cassino? The Americans failed. The British failed. Some people, several different nations failed. The Americans failed again. We were stuck there for like 6 months or 5 months at least. And then finally the Poles cracked that open, that position open. Poles, Free French, even Czech units fought in North Africa. These countries that supposedly got air quotes conquered so easily early in the conflict. When these little armies get a chance to try again, later on in the history, they almost have like this sting of wounded pride.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows in their combat record. I mean, not just victories and losses, and wins and losses, victories and defeats, but just how friggin' ferocious they are. Polish pilots in the Battle of Britain, Free French pilots in the Battle of Britain, they're friggin' crazy because they sort of have like this stigma of defeat, and they're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah,
I think a lot of times.
So also I'm gonna just shout out to the French military. If it wasn't for the French military in the American War of Independence, we may still be a British colony. So, between them and some of the Polish, generals and colonels that came over to help us. So, we still have that connection.
The father of American cavalry and the father of American combat engineers.
Yeah.
2 different guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally Polanski and Kozyetski.
Casimir Pulaski.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we have a statue here in Chicago of.
In Chicago, we actually celebrate Pulaski Day.
Yes, we do. Because we have the largest Polish population outside the city of Warsaw here in Chicago. So
a lot of times people will throw around in 1917-18, we basically saved France, which isn't really true. 1944, we saved France again, which is a little bit more true. But even if those two things were true, which again, they're not really, all that really does is make us even as far as the French goes.
I agree.
Because, Yorktown, Saratoga, Brandywine, there's no way we're walking out of like you were mentioning, the American Revolution without massive French support.
Yeah.
And as far as what it cost the French, it literally brought down their monarchy. There is no French Revolution without the American War of Independence, because that's how Louis XVI completely wrecked his government, was paying all of our bills and supporting us in a war he really shouldn't have been involved in. it wasn't like a casual thing, like, oh, sure, we'll give them some support because we hate the British too. No, it got to the point where their treasury got so destabilized and so bankrupt that, was it 9 years later, 8 years later, the French government collapses. And you have the French Revolution, and then right from the French Revolution, you have Napoleon.
Yeah.
So with no American Revolution, there's no French Revolution, and there's no Napoleon, there's no rise of the British Victorian Empire. It's all the chain. It all just kind of links together.
Yeah, it's interesting how all that happened.
Absolutely.
All right.
Stop talking. I got more news. I got things.
Go for it.
And all right, and this stuff isn't gonna, I don't think, require a lot of discussion so much as it's just a little information to share. So we talked about Kickstarter last podcast, as well as we talked about the doing a table for the Savage Frontier.
Yeah.
So Savage Frontiers Kickstarter from Footsore Miniatures, our good friend Tim Spakowski over there working on that. So I went and checked the status, and there's no recent status update on the Kickstarter comments itself. But I scrolled through the comments, and there were some that he had responded to, and basically what I got for out of that was they are on schedule to deliver as promised January 22, which puts me right into my next Kickstarter update for Blood and Plunder.
I thought they were supposed to deliver in September. Was it originally January? I thought it was September.
I thought the Footsore was for that was January.
Okay.
Because Blood and Plunder was supposed to deliver end of September, October time frame.
Okay.
However, delivery's been moved back to January of 22
Gotcha.
for Raise the Black.
Okay.
So I got a bunch of stuff coming in the new year. It
well, then
like,
it sounds like you've got to do some videos in January.
Yeah, I backed both of those. And then my final news item, something that we look forward to every year, Wargame Soldiers and Strategy has opened the 2021 Great Wargaming Survey.
Yeah.
So there's always some interesting stuff that comes out of those. I enjoy seeing the results. So, go to, WSS and fill out your survey.
All right.
And, we can report on that whenever they publish the results. I forget when it's going to be. But that, gentlemen, is my news.
All right. The news brought to you by Marty. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk topic. Miniatures or board games? Which do you like better, or which do you prefer? I don't know. But like better is a good question. What do you think in today's world would draw more people to play? Or are they just two so different categories that you really can't compare one to the other? Are
we talking brand new players or
anybody? Just anybody coming into the game. I mean, obviously brand new players because you want to grow the. What do you think? One, what is your preference? And two, what do you think, really translate to playability, replayability, that type of thing. So, is it, what are the barriers? What's the entry? Those kind of things. So if you're looking at a miniatures-based game, let's say it's almost a similar genre or campaign or battlefield, miniature versus a board game. Ooh,
I will let everybody else speak first because as I listen to these podcasts, I realize I talk too much.
You do not talk too much.
You guys go ahead.
That's what the people come here for, is actually to listen to you. So
they don't come to listen to me. Trust me.
But I think oftentimes the board games are kind of the gateway drug of getting new people into tabletop gaming. So I like them if you are looking for something that is probably got a lower barrier to entry, because you could literally buy a box that has everything that you need to play. There may be expansions and stuff, but you can literally crack open the box. Maybe you got to paint a figure or assemble a vehicle or whatever. But you can do that and then, be playing.
Right.
Whereas with the miniature rule set and whatnot, you may have to collect all those things individually.
Yeah.
The table will be as built or unbuilt as you make it.
Right.
But I think that as well as speed of play for most of the board games, I would go out on a limb and say are faster to play. So again, especially for someone that's new, do they want to get into a game that's 4 hours long, 8 hours long, or do maybe we want to ease them into it with something that's 40 minutes long?
Right.
And then they can get their head around it. And then you turn around and play it again. And now that they have a better grasp of the rules, they're like, oh, I'm gonna jack you up this time because I know my guy does X, Y, and Z now.
Sure.
So I think they obviously I think they both have their place, but I really think that the board game side of things can be a really good way to bring new folks to the hobby, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, it depends on what you're trying to play, because obviously it's much easier to play large armies, division and up, or even brigade and up on a board game versus miniature, unless you're at depending on scale and the ratio of what a miniature represents. And really the investment time is much less on a board game versus a miniature game. So, in my case, we have the Epic Battles, American Civil War. I can paint, even though there are, 12 mil, 15 mil, whatever the official scale is, of those minis.
12, I think.
Yeah. I still got to paint hundreds of them, right? And they, what stand represents, this many guys. And then you got to look at terrain and stuff, so from a storage standpoint and the construction. So miniature gaming is really two hobbies in of itself, maybe even three if you really want to get crazy.
I was going to say at least two.
Yeah. I mean, there's the actual hobby and crafting side, right? Painting, assembly, that kind of stuff. Then you actually have the gameplay itself. And then if you're really crazy and you want to do some really awesome scenery, that's a hobby in of itself. So you've got the miniature painting, especially when you're talking Civil War and especially Napoleonics, with everybody with their different color schemes and stuff like that. And then, building the appropriate table, and it could be as complex as it can be or simple. You could do felt circles and squares for different things. I've seen people just use felt, right, as houses and fields and woods and etc.
Yeah, you go to Joann Fabrics and get a couple of yards of teddy bear fur and have at it.
Yeah, so, I mean, so in, miniature, so in, some people will say, well, it takes forever to set up certain war games. I'm talking board games, because you got to do, based on the scenario, you got to get these unit pieces and you set them up and it takes a while. Yeah, but it also takes quite a bit of time to set up a game board, historically, if you're doing a portion of, let's say, Shiloh, right, or, the Civil War or Chancellorsville or whatever the case may be, or even the Battle of the Bulge, if you want to go that, or, whatever the case may be, because you want to make sure the terrain's right and all this stuff. And so for scale purposes, I'd say board games are going to be your game of choice, pun intended, for larger scale battles, unless you have a lot of room and, you're working in 10 mil or 6 mil or even 3 mil. What that table we saw at Little Wars, was that 6 mil they were using for Gettysburg?
Yeah, I think so. And that table was
huge,
18 feet long.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. I mean, but it took them probably all day to set it up before they could even play. So, honestly, though, in today's world, even there are skirmish games that are not board games where each guy has its own piece, and you have terrain and stuff. It's all printed. And in today's world, it almost seems like it's easier to pull out a box for a board game, set it up and play it, and then you can stack it up, put it back, and throw it back on your shelf, versus I got to get all my minis out, and I got to do this, and then how am I going to store all this stuff, So it's interesting. where we see gamers going. Is it towards what I can set up easy, what I can store easy? It's still appealing to me. I love a well-designed and well-built miniature game table. The visual aspect of it is what I really strive for.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm a really cool guy, so yeah. I like that stuff.
I'm staring right at my 3D printed watermill that I did a scene for. It's a printable scenery watermill, and I've got it terrained in, and I did it as a display piece. It can be used for like Lord of the Rings or whatever. I've got really nice model railroad trees. I've actually got fake water coming off the water wheel, and grass and bushes and reeds, and that's the kind of stuff I really enjoy spending time doing. However, the problem is you have to store it, right? And after a while of playing on those things, they get worn down and broken, and you got to repair it, and stuff like that. So it just depends, I think, on the person's interests, what they have available for time and space and budget. I mean, you can play War and Peace from Avalon Hill for roughly $35, $40 these days off of eBay, on a game board, or you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars buying miniatures to do the Napoleonic Wars, and then you have to have a place to store it. So it's an interesting question as to where do you go and what draws people these days. So that's what I think so far. Jim, the floor is yours, sir.
Here we go.
No, it's all good. Because honestly, I think Bill has already said. Actually, you both have. Bill, and especially Bill, though, has already said most of what I was going to say. I come from definitely, in my own gaming journey or whatever you want to call it. Definitely come from hex encounters, board games, kind of a background. I used to be yes, one of those people who looked at miniatures and saying, "Oh, look at that! You guys are so adorable, playing with your little toys. Did you buy them at the drugstore? Oh, green versus tan. Isn't that nice? You people, please grow up and play a real war game. What the hell's the matter with you?" And then I sort of gave miniature wargaming a try, and I was like, "Oh, wait, this is actually kind of fun." So so I very quickly stopped, with that previous attitude, and
pivoted there.
Yeah, and now I freely and liberally and smoothly swing back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
A hybrid gamer, if you would. I play on both sides of the fence. Wow, that sounded weird.
You're a swinger and you do both sides of the fence.
Yeah, I originally plays for both teams.
So anybody who just joined us in the podcast, we are talking games.
Yeah, that's on the internet forever now. But all yeah. So it's exactly. I think Bill hit it on the head. As far as it depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you're trying to simulate. It's like, a carpenter trying to build a house. Sometimes you need a sledgehammer to break up concrete. Sometimes you need a finishing hammer to, install your molding. It's not every tool is good for every job. As far as I can remember, as far back as I can remember, I've played Panzerleader, Panzerblitz. In those days, you would buy the box at your local bookstore for $10, again, in those days. And I still have it, and I still use it. You literally have everything you need in there for decades worth of gaming, which I think was part of the reason some of those games kind of went away, is they were almost too good. I mean, for $10, you would buy Panzerblitz and done.
Yeah.
You can't really...
Yeah, victim of their own success, if you will.
And then the Panzerblitz came with 12 scenarios in the box, and then players would play the 12 scenarios, and then they would realize that they haven't used all the pieces that came in the box. This is way before the internet. We were talking about the General Magazine, Bill, before the podcast.
Yeah.
And I remember people are writing letters to the General Magazine in like 1982 saying, "I don't know what's going on here. I think I'm missing something out of the box, but I've played all 12 of the scenarios that you included in this box, and I still have counters I've never used." And the answer came back, and it was blowing people. It's going to sound really cheesy today, but at the time it was blowing people away. "Hey, we want you to make up your own scenarios. We gave you extra pieces so you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can make up your own games." People were like, "What?" Oh my God. It was a new thing back then.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm not a game designer. I just play the game. What do you mean? Do my own?
We mean make up my own games. You're crazy. Or not my own game, but my own scenarios. Yeah, go for it. They wanted you to be a little bit more creative. So that's where I think that's where I think board gaming has a bit of an edge. I would warn against the overall perception, at least not the overall perception, the universal perception. Don't think that it's always this way. It's I guess my warning that, board games don't have a lot of painting. They don't have a lot of, building, terrain, storage. Therefore, they're going to be easier or quicker to play. The thing about a board game is that they don't have that, like you guys were talking about several hobbies. Board games, like big hex and counter games, don't include building, painting, terrain, storage, paints, different kinds of glues, that whole part of the hobby. And so it focuses 100% of its mind space, so to speak, in the rules. Your average miniature game versus your average board game is night and day as far as rules complexity. Because when it comes to a hex and counter game, GDW Assault, Panzer Blitz, Panzer Leader, Arab Israeli War, it's all about the rules and the rules compared to a miniature war game. I'm not trying to say that miniature games are simplistic or for ages 8 and up, or I'm not trying to make any kind of insinuation there, but they know that you've already, by the time you open the rule book, you've already invested a lot of money and time and brain power, honestly, into the construction of your miniatures and your hobby and all that stuff like that. With a hex and counter game, with a board game, you open it up, you set it up, and now it's nothing but rules.
Yeah,
nothing but levels of, I don't want to say complexity, but levels of nuance, levels of subtlety, levels of depth of how deep it gets into what's actually going on the table. So yeah, I got Rise and Decline of the Third Reich on my shelf. I've played that game since 1983. I guess they kind of threw me in on the deep end on that one.
Right.
The full campaign version, if you set up a 6-player game, that will take you a day to set up.
Yeah.
It will take you a hobby day. It takes at least 4 hours just to set up the pieces and kind of get that game going again. And you'll be at it for a week.
Yeah.
There's obviously scenarios within that allow you to take it on at a more bite-sized table. But yeah, some board games are definitely, and that's not even really a big one by today's standards. Decision games, War in the Pacific, World at War, has 29 square feet of maps and over 9,000 counters in the box. A cardboard, paper, and cardboard hex and counter game costs you $550.
Yeah.
Because it's that big.
I am so getting that game.
It's so huge.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I don't think I ever will. I'm not encouraged. I don't want to say anything bad about the game because God bless Decision Games. But that is, you have to put a new wing on your house. I get 27 square feet of maps. You need to have it. Yeah, that's going to be a room of your house. And this game can take like 3 months for a game.
Challenge accepted. All right, Jim, you and I are playing it.
Oh, no. What did I just say?
You said I've never played. I don't think I ever will. Challenge accepted.
I'm never going to play this game. The next thing you say is, okay, James, you and I are going to play this game. I'm like, ah.
I got a pool table downstairs. We're going to put the board on a pool table. We'll set it up, and that'll be where it sits. Yeah.
27 square feet. That's more than a pool table.
Well,
that's like several maps. You're going to have now, if you have a pool room, because you're going to have several tables. This game is like you walk into that room in your house and you're literally in a situation room where there's like maps on the walls and you're looking around and you are like Chester Nimitz or Douglas.
I got the space.
Well, how big is a 4x8 sheet of plywood?
Well, it's several maps, so it's not just one like 24 square feet.
Right, but I'm saying that it's big, it's doable.
Yeah. And I have the space, for sure. So, yeah, I definitely have the space. Anyways, I agree. So, that's one of those ones I keep eyeballing. So, Jim, I accept your challenge. I heard the challenge subtly in there. So,
Jim, this is all your fault.
Somebody else
know it now.
Help.
Put it up there.
Send help.
Dawn, when you want to blame somebody, this is Jim's fault, not Marty's
It's
fault.
so not my fault. I started my sentence as this game is the way to madness. No.
But you said it to Bill.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The last thing I'll say on the whole. The last thing I'll say on the whole miniatures versus board game thing is, okay, that was the kind of, warning, I don't want to say warning against, but the whole like cautionary tale about going into board games.
Uh-huh.
Here's the thing about military war games, like big war games. You will save on storage space and you will save on money. I will say that.
Yeah.
That's definitely big pluses. The other good thing about especially big command level, we always talk about the 4 levels of wargaming. So like, command level or scale tactical, whatever you want to call it, unit-based games, operational games, strategic games, and grand strategic games. You get up into that higher level stuff. And people often look at these, and I've heard this from the community a bunch of times, in person, on both sides of the water, online, in Discord, in YouTube comments, the whole 9 yards. They're like, I get what you're doing there. I understand that you're playing like a brigadier general or like commanding like, a brigade or a regiment or a major general commanding a division or who knows what. But I just don't have that immersion. I don't really feel like I'm on a battlefield. I mean, what do you think real war looks like once you get up into those levels?
Right.
A general.
Very true.
A general is not sitting there on top of a farmhouse with a pair of binoculars. And if you walk into an army TOC, you're not going to see guys with little green army men on a miniature table. They're looking at a tactical operations map. They're looking at little squares with X's in them for infantry or ovals for armor or the little, sideways 8 or infinity symbol for air units. That's what, as far as, and you're sitting there and you're drawing arrows on a map. That's what it actually looks like.
I mean, that's why the Army has the Department of Defense has a whole manual on military symbiology because that's where we use it.
And Strategy and Tactics has some great articles about that where they're like, look, I know everyone has seen these maps and you see all these little rectangles and you see these symbols within the rectangles and you're like, what the hell is all this gibberish? There is a code to that.
Yep.
And it totally makes sense and it's not that complicated.
Exactly.
And then also, it's even like, I think, Bill, when you and I used to go over to the Beasts of War studio and participate in those boot camps, we have some of these big maps set up, and then eventually I think it clued in to some of the people that were running these events. They were like, Oriskany, your map looks really impressive and yay, it looks very pretty, but nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. Maybe you should do a little video segment where you explain what all these little symbols mean. I thought, okay, that's probably a good point.
I mean, because a lot of those people are not military, so they wouldn't, if you've not played hex and counter games or been in the military, a lot of that stuff is going to look very foreign to you. So, so. And
we're not making it up. It's the actual real military symbols used by NATO and other armies. So as far as the immersion goes, when it comes to, a lot of times people tend to think that board game, I keep saying board game geek, that board games don't have that kind of immersion. It really does. It's going for a different part of the military experience with which you might not be that familiar.
You have to think a little bit more abstract to see it. But I mean, I when we've played Panzer Blitz or Panzer Leader, and we're looking at those pieces on the board, I after a while can see, all right, this is my tanks, these are my mechanized infantry, whatever. You start to see it, but you really have to be immersed in it, versus a visual tank on a miniature board or infantry guys or whatever. You can see it and you can be immersed in it.
If you're playing force on force, bolt action, Flames of War, you are playing at most. They always call it, well, here's my force. Here's my Flames of War army. Dude, you're an understrength company at best. Trust me. I know it's just a term, but it actually goes to the strengths of the two different mediums that we're comparing with this discussion.
Yeah.
When you're playing like a first lieutenant, almost like a role-playing game, when you sit down at a war game table, you're taking on the role of a commander of one level or another. And if you're playing a miniatures game, you want that You want that visual impact. You want that I'm a first lieutenant. I have 2 platoons of tanks, and I'm supported by some infantry. Maybe I have some off-board artillery support. I've got my radio man right next to me. We're all set. Here we go. He is in a tank turret. He looks out with his binoculars or through his gunnery sight. He's seeing trees, bushes, buildings, streams, fences. You want the terrain on those tables, and you want to see enemy tanks, because that's what that commander is seeing.
Yep. You're
clicking up to brigade, division, corps, army. I got bad news for you. Those guys are nowhere. They're not within 20 miles of the battlefield. They wouldn't know a tank if it ran over their feet. Okay, they're looking at a map with little with little rectangle squares and symbols on it. I understand what people are saying when they say you have to get abstract. Not really, because that's what that commander sees. That commander is looking at a map with grid squares, and he's moving symbols around a map.
Yeah.
As far as immersion goes, that's what he is. You want more immersion? Turn the lights off and put on like some artillery noise in the background or something, and you're in that TOC and you're commanding that battle. That's what that commander sees. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine, but that is what war looks like from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to your point, Jim, as as the actual military officers throughout their career, they've started at that lowest level, a gamer's skirmish level, if you will.
Yeah.
And then they built their way up. So the system has been ingrained in them of symbiology and tactics going as they progress through their career. So it is intuitive to them. They understand it because they've lived it on the ground, and then they've built their way up into higher and higher levels. So they understand exactly what it means when they look at this little box with an X, an oval, and 3 dots, and they're like, okay, that's a mechanized infantry platoon. They're going over there.
And that's 35 lives I have in my hand as I pick up this little square and I move it 2 inches on this grid map. So he's got to be a little bit careful as far as that aspect of it goes.
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah. So it leads to another. Just something that popped in my head when listening to what Marty just said. You could almost do a career mode for somebody in wargaming. So, brand new lieutenant.
Ooh, that's a good concept.
Brand new lieutenant, you're doing skirmish miniatures game, right? Captain, you're doing a skirmish game, but you're now a company, CO. And then
you start off with bolt action, you work your way up to Flames of War.
Yep.
Then you go to, let's see, what would be next? Probably something like North Ag.
Yep.
You finally make the jump to either Valor and Victory, or I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah. So by the time
that's
you
kind of a cool
concept, isn't it? All right, I just thought of another grand idea.
So could we merge that idea with the Force on Force campaign idea?
I don't know that. I think that'll take away from the Force on Force.
Jim, you got the big brain. Tell us, can we do that?
The thing with a career mode, as far as that goes, is definitely interesting. The only word of warning, or not word of warning, the only cautionary, tale there is that you're also going to be jumping across different wars.
Yeah.
Because military career tends to last 30 years. And thank God, wars tend not to last 30 years. So we see, Patton was playing Flames of War in 1917, 1918. By 1943, he was playing, he was past Panzerblitz by that point. He was playing big operational battles. So we would have to, if you're a lieutenant.
We could start in Vietnam as a lieutenant.
Yeah.
World War II, Korea, Vietnam?
Storm and Norman Schwarzkopf had a rifle company, I think, in Vietnam. And by Desert Storm, he had Centag or whatever.
He had all of them.
Centcom. Yeah. But the thing is that we if you wanted to do it and you wanted to do it with a sense of realism, you will be skipping over or jumping from one conflict to another.
Which is that's a grand idea.
It would add a little bit to the work, but not that much.
Yeah.
We just have to find a nice slice of history where the wars are close enough together.
You do Vietnam, then you do Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm.
Yeah, but when you look at Grenada and Panama, let's be real. There was 1% of the army involved.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just getting the creative juices flowing.
But a lot of these guys, first of all, Marty, that's very true. But a lot of these guys that were in all these conflicts there's two things that make that idea viable. Is number one, a lot of the guys that were involved in all these conflicts are the real tip of the spear type of guys. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. True. Yeah.
And then number one, they tend to, by hook or by crook, they're always in the middle of it somehow. Their MOS, their postings,
82nd Airborne all the way, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And number two, if we wanted to do this, we would only want to do like 1 or 2 battles per conflict anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, Grenada is kind of a joke as far as its military scope goes. But again, it's just a stop because you want to get past Grenada as quickly as you can so you can get to Panama, so you can get to Desert Storm, so you can get to Somalia, so you can get to Kosovo, so you can get to War on Terror in 2001, 2002, so you can get to Iraq in 2003. You can, kind of get your guy promoted quickly. You don't want to get bogged down in 50 scenarios of Ambush Valley in Vietnam to get from second lieutenant to first lieutenant to captain. Because, like, dude, I'm trying to get my 5 stars here, man. Or my 4 stars. I don't want to get.
And
I don't want to spend the Christmas.
I'm on a mission. I got things to do here. Let's go.
And the interesting thing is, if you don't do well in a certain battle, it affects your promotion. So we'd have to do a rule where, if we're doing a career mode, you're not going to get promoted. You'd have to do, there's so much potential here. And it encompasses everything that we as war gamers, military war gamers, it's going to get everybody's interest. You're going to have your miniature war gamers who are going to be interested because, we're starting at that lieutenant level, all the way up to Jim's hex and counter games, By the time you get to Desert Storm and stuff, you're, general, your commander of Centag and the whole 9 yards, you're controlling the entire conflict, right? The battlefield. So
it totally clicks into each other.
Yeah.
Everybody who was at any kind of flag rank, anybody who had stars on their shoulder in Desert Storm started off as either a platoon or a company commander in Vietnam, or a lieutenant JG in the Navy, or something like that. A pilot, like Chuck Horner was, I think, a pilot, and he knew all about Operation Rolling Thunder in Vietnam. He was the commander of the Air Forces there in Desert Storm, and he called the air conflict, or his air campaign in Desert Storm, he called it Instant Thunder. And it was basically, I remember Vietnam, I was there, I saw all the mistakes the generals at the time were making. I was only a lieutenant or a, lieutenant commander or something like that, or not lieutenant commander, lieutenant or a major at the time, captain or a major at the time. We're going to do things differently this time. So yeah, you would almost get to apply, lessons learned in previous conflicts. And this could be any period. All the guys you read about in the American Civil War, they were all in Mexico. They all knew each other. They had all, they'd been in some of the same units, and now they were on opposite sides of the war. Yeah. They'd all been in Mexico. Especially the British commanders, and some of the American commanders too, in the American Revolution. They'd all been pals or former enemies. They all knew each other from French and Indian, or the 7 Years' War, as it really was.
Yeah.
This kind of thing, World War II, good grief, everybody, Rommel was like an infantry captain. Patton had a battalion of tanks. MacArthur was his CO with like one of the brigades. I think 82nd was just the infantry division. I think it was 82nd U.S. Infantry in those days. It wasn't airborne yet, obviously.
Right.
They were all in previous conflicts. And then a lot of those guys wound up in Korea.
Yeah. So, Jim.
Ridgway wound up in Korea afterwards, after MacArthur kind of shit the bed in Korea. So, yeah. So totally. You can totally do this.
So, guys, I'm very excited about this idea, if you can't tell. So we can make this participatory for other people. So if we set the guidelines that these are the conflicts and this is your career mode, we could have people like post to our Discord channel. We could set up a separate page on our Discord channel and stuff, the SITREP Career Campaign, and say, okay, you start with this rule set and you play this, and then you go up from there. And we could, have people do their own careers and see how it goes. What do you think of that?
And we could be like HQDA and be like, oh, yeah, that's not good enough. So you got to do.
So they get to play along with us, as we go through the stages and, video it, air it, and all that stuff. People can do their own career, and they would be able to have a place to post their careers and their battle reports and, that stuff. And then it has we'd have to set the campaigns. Now, then we'd have to kind of, Jim, would you have to set the kind of units so that would follow that track, or can you just say you can be this type of guy and we're not going to go 100% historical and say, okay, well, we
don't want to get too specific because the more specific you get, the more limiting you get.
Right.
So we would definitely want to set the period. If we want to stick with an American history line, okay, we've got Vietnam through War on Terror, 1968
if we go Vietnam,
to 2001.
If we go Vietnam to War on Terror, that would include the Australians, because they were in Vietnam.
Oh yeah. Like there's definitely
right. Yep. Yeah, get your Anzacs in there.
And they were East Timor, so they could have their Grenada, whatever. We could come up with alternatives because not everybody wants to play Americans. Let's not,
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's just we have to set the sort of time period and then go from there. I think that's probably the best option because I think that offers the most choices.
Or we just say, okay, we're going to do a Vietnam scenario, and you can bring your equivalent to an American infantry platoon. So if it's an Australian or British or French or whatever, if we're willing to give a little bit of creative license, if they weren't actually in Vietnam, but at that time period they have the equivalency. So they just have to. It has to be time period appropriate, and we'd all be fighting the same enemy. So case NVA Viet Cong in Vietnam, and then whatever the next battle is, and the next battle is. They just have to have the time period appropriate military. Does that make sense?
Right.
And then,
certainly.
So,
a lot of times people tend to not like historical gaming because it's too restrictive.
Right.
You just haven't read enough history. Were British units in Vietnam? No. Flat out no.
Yeah.
But they were in Malaysia.
Yeah.
They were in Indonesia. They were in 4 other different jungle countries in Africa. Trust me, there's a way. You just, it's sometimes you have to read a book or an article or something like that, or just talk to somebody who knows about this kind of stuff. There's a way to get to where you want to be gaming wise. If you want to play British in the jungle, fighting communists in the 1960s, they weren't in Vietnam. Oh, shucks. Well, I guess I'm not going to play. Yeah, you can play. Trust me. We'll find a way.
Yep.
There's a lot more history out there than a lot of people know, and it's just a matter of finding it and making it work. It's easier than most people think.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a to your point, Jim, there's a ton of dirty little wars out there that just aren't they're not the big battles, they're not the big famous conflicts, so people don't necessarily think of them. Especially now, I'm coming at it from my experience, which is as an American, so I tend to lean into the American history and what they've done. However, if you're not from the good old US of A, you're probably rooting for your own home team, whatever country that is, and are more familiar with that. So you may already have more to work with than, say, I would, because that hasn't been my experience, if you will.
Right.
So, yeah, we could expand that all over the place.
All right. So
much.
Yeah. History has sadly provided us with plenty of wars to choose from.
So
there's never a shortage of history.
I'm going to throw a curveball right now. What if we get a player from Russia, the former Soviet Union?
What if? They've got plenty to work with.
So now they're flipping around, and they're playing that.
Pyotr,
yeah.
Who, he's not quite old enough. He's not our age. He wasn't in the service. He was in the service, and he was in the service in Poland, which used to be a Warsaw.
Did you just call us all old?
Yes, I did. I'm so sorry. He was in the military. He did serve in what used to be a Warsaw Pact country. But it was after the wall fell. But I guess what I'm saying is that what you're saying just is not as far-fetched as it sounds.
Right.
In fact, in some ways, we're already halfway there.
Yeah.
We do have active members of our community who game with us online who do come from countries that historically did belong to the Warsaw Pact.
I'm just saying that's interesting because we could have both sides of the coin. We have, the Americans, the Brits, the traditional versus the Soviet communists, and then you could have people who were on that other side gaming the Vietnam War as the NVA, the North Vietnamese versus the Americans, Australia, whatever. So it's interesting that you could have a career path that way as well. And we would see, this has so much potential. This is freaking amazing.
We do have comments. People do watch.
Yeah.
I've had actual Vietnamese people from Vietnam comment on our videos, and they have a different perspective.
Yeah.
But they're like, a lot of times, like we've had Argentinians on our Falkland stuff, and we've had Ukrainians. In fact, the Ukrainians have been the nastiest ones on our Ukrainian streams. But these other people have been, they've been like, hey, I saw this. It's nice that you guys are kind of shooting down the middle as far as, how you're looking at the military history of this conflict. I mean, they don't game with us, but we do have once in a while we do have people from these other countries watching our stuff.
You just said being another thing. You can have your British and Argentinians instead of Grenada, they're doing the Falklands, right? So.
Oh yeah.
So okay. All right. So we don't take up too much more time on the podcast. Go ahead and finish your final thought, Marty.
But think about the potential for anybody dealing with the content or the continent of Africa.
Yep.
There's so much to work with there.
Right.
So much.
There is.
That's just kind of the conceit of the potential project here, but you could literally build a career out of and many people have, especially, holy crap, you want to talk about some countries. America, until we get to Somalia, America's not that involved in too much stuff in Africa.
Yeah.
Until you get to Somalia, Horn of Africa, that kind of stuff. But British, French, oh my God, Portuguese.
So
literally
look at it from the
everybody.
other side, though. Jim, what if you are the African guy? You're not one of the colonial powers. You're the African guy, and you can literally have a career path to become the warlord.
And especially if you go back to the 80s, there's people on both sides of that fence.
Right.
You want to play an African, local guy running an insurgency. You want to play the villain? Idi Amin. Here you go. You're one of his boys.
You could end up the leader of a country.
You could be Jonas Savimbi. Does anyone remember him?
Yeah.
He led Unitas through the whole Angola War in the 80s and into the early 90s. He was one of our it's a very dirty kind of a war, but he was one of our friends over there for most of that conflict. So, yeah, again, just because you're the insurgent, a lot of times nowadays, because of war on terror, since the last 20 years, almost to the day, in fact, almost to the month, September 11th, 20th anniversary is like about a month away.
Right.
Because of the last 20 years, insurgent has often kind of become synonymous with air quotes bad guy. You could play Chechens up against the Russians in Chechnya, Georgia. I mean, you could play, Jonas Savimbi's Angolans against the Cubans and Russians and communist Angolans in Angola. A lot of times, especially back in the 80s, Afghanistan. The Afghanistan insurgents used to be our buddies in the 80s. Charlie, what's his name? Charlie Wilson's war.
Yeah.
That didn't really work out too well for us in the long run, but
if you wanted to be, I mean, no,
who doesn't like to play the
inspired myself?
Rebels? But the fluffy underdog. Totally.
If you wanted to be Mossad, the lion of the Northern Alliance, and play him, in turn of the century 2000, 2001. That could be an interesting character. That dude. Yeah.
All right.
He was on it.
So let's do this, guys. I think we have planted a really good seed, and it's going to grow. Would you guys be interested in joining me Wednesday night as we talk about? Let's do on the Wednesday night live stream. Let's start planning and designing the career path. The setup, because I think this has a lot of potential, and I am going to stream it whether your guys are available or not. It's going to happen. But I really like Jim's brain there because, he's the one that can think about all the little things that I'm not going to think of or miss. Marty, you have, some real world experience as well. And, how do we make it approachable for all, and we don't want to get too far off the reservation and say, okay, you can do any campaign or any we have to have some kind of, parameters.
There's got to be some kind of framework.
Yeah. So would you guys be up for doing the live stream with me on Wednesday night as we design the SITREP Career Campaign?
Yeah, get your whiteboard out.
Yeah.
Get ready to write some stuff down.
Yeah. So let's shoot for the Wednesday night live stream, and we'll start creating this, and we'll see the interest we get out there. I think this has a lot of potential. It really does.
It's
because
such a cool concept.
It is. Because, you think about it, it brings your miniature players in, so you can do your miniature games until you get... What level, Jim, would you say you're going to do the crossover from miniatures to a Hex Encounter board game?
That's not really a sharp line in the sand. It's kind of a fuzzy area.
Uh-huh.
It's, broadly speaking, company level.
Okay.
Broadly speaking.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on what scale you're playing, too.
Yeah, well, also like what systems you're using. I'm just trying to think of the systems that are out there and that people tend to have popular in the community. The biggest popular modern or modernish war game systems that are out there tend to be Company Plus.
Yeah.
And I'm mostly looking at Flames of War, North Ag, stuff like that. North Ag is more battalion. So maybe Company Plus, maybe inching past battalion. Once you get fully in battalion, it's time to go Hex Encounters.
Yeah. So this is stuff we can talk about on Wednesday night because we'll start designing. There's a couple things we need to think about, and we don't need to talk about now, but just keep in the back of your mind, accessibility to the game or rule set. The more people we want to participate, it has to be easily accessible or available without a lot of investment. Does that make sense? If we can think about,
and it can't be some dead rule set that's only available,
So I'm gonna be selfish.
Market.
I'm gonna be very, very selfish on this one. For the initial lieutenant platoon level, why not SITREP skirmish? Right? Think about, is that something we can use? Again,
SITREP skirmish is almost down to like sergeant.
Yeah.
You basically have a squad, but yeah, that's definitely like a very, very beginning, like individual.
Right, because that's available. We can make it available to everybody, so everybody's starting on the same level. I mean, again, think about these and come up with ideas of what you think, because we can go up to, Valor and Victory at some level. I don't know. Again, let's think about what's accessible.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, we can kind of just work through the natural progression of game systems that we think would support this concept.
Right. Because, again, if we want max participation, we have to kind of eliminate a lot of barriers, and think about what people play, what they already have on hand, or what they can proxy, and what rule sets are out there that are easily available without too much of an investment, or somehow we have to be able to supply rule sets, right? So let's think about that, and that's all stuff we can discuss Wednesday night. Go ahead.
What else
What's
might
that?
Be a resource
What?
Is our own audience.
Right.
For those of you that are listening, if you have an idea on these things, put a comment on our Facebook page. Put a comment on this video on YouTube.
Right.
Hit. Slap something down in Discord and one of the hobby chat rooms. Something like that. So that way, we can get your input, and maybe you're going to come up with an idea that we overlooked or whatever, and be like, yep, we can slide that right in here. That's a good fit for that piece.
Exactly. So, guys, I think we're going to close it out at that, while we're on top. And I think that's excellent. So thank you to everybody out there listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bells, share it with your friends and other gamers, and help the channel grow. We recovered a little bit, Jim. I don't know if you've been tracking our YouTube numbers.
We're heading back in the right direction.
Yeah. So, guys, help share us out. I'd like to. What do you think, Jim? Do you think 700's too much to ask for the end of the year? Or am I being very conservative?
No, I think I got so stressed out trying to get us to 600 by the middle of the year. I don't want to set any more goals. Whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
Whatever
Technically, we already hit our goal for the year, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hit our goal.
So I'm ready to rest on my laurels just for a little bit.
But after July was rough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that one. July was rough for us. We were up. I mean, it was like we were traveling out west, up and down the valleys and the mountain peaks. So let's shoot for 700, but let's exceed it, right? So, all right, guys, we still have several months left in this year. So make sure you're liking, following, subscribing, notifications, all that good stuff. If you're a Twitch follower, you can get a subscription if you're Amazon Prime. It doesn't cost you anything and helps support us. And we will see you tomorrow for Jim's Gaming Red Dragon, right, Jim? 2028?
Yep, 2028.
And then on Wednesday, we'll be doing the live stream as we talk about planning and start formulating the SITREP Career Mode campaign. For Jim and Marty, this is Bill for the SITREP podcast. Take care, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the SITREP podcast. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Remember to join us every other weekend for a new episode of the podcast, and don't forget our other programming on Wednesdays and Sundays. Thanks for listening.